officials. So it's council's. Councilor DeWall, can you sit on this?
I used to be able to because I did not have a vote. In this particular situation, there is a vote, and I believe it would be a conflict of interest for me to take that. So I hastily have to say that I would decline because it would be a conflict of interest. So new rules.
So we're looking at us five here, I believe. Councilor Reuter.
I'll do it. I was there.
Sure on that?
I'm sure on that.
So, well, I know her plate is full, so I'll make a motion to seat Councilor Reuter and Administrator Rich on the Fire Relief Association Board of Trustees. Is there a second to that?
I will support.
Councilor Benson supports. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you. To bring us to 6E, supplemental letter agreement with SEH and the City of Proctor. Administrator Rich.
So as you all have been informed, we were awarded a very large grant from the state of Minnesota. We were successful in it, and we need to move forward with the scoping of the project. Of course, when we write a grant, we're looking at very preliminary cost estimates. What SEH is asking for, we're asking, and our monthly retainer city engineer contract. So this is a project that is above and beyond the contract, which requires a supplemental letter. As you can see, that'll include scoping the project and up to $15,000, which will be billed hourly. So we have control over that as far as how many meetings are going to be held, scoping meetings. If we use them, of course, we're going to be charged more. My question to you is, it includes reconstruction of 2nd Street from 5th to 9th. But what I wanted to have the council discuss was also doing 9th and doing 3rd Street, which are the two frontage roads to the school. If you want them to do scoping of 2nd Street and then a second scoping of doing 9th and 3rd at the same time, go together to do the improvements. So what I would ask you to do is have a discussion if you want the scoping to also include 9th Avenue and 3rd Street. And they could kind of be considered two different projects. So you could get a preliminary scoping on 2nd Street, and then you could get a preliminary scoping on 9th and 3rd. And then we can use those scoping to make decisions moving forward.
It would be nice to know as part of that if we're just talking about resurfacing those two streets, and it's not that much of a it's not that expensive, but if we start looking at that and say, now we want to do infrastructure, that could be a lot of money. I don't know how, but we won't know that till we look at the age of everything over there.
Third doesn't have any houses on it, right?
Well, it's got
some.
one in a pole barn maybe?
If you're talking from 9th to Uggstead,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, the pole building's owned by the school, so there's one house.
One house in the pole barn.
Right.
But wouldn't the services from there come off of Uggstead?
I don't know.
And not that it's and I agree with what Jim is saying is if you're just, and not going down 7 feet or whatever to do everything underneath.
I mean, I'm going to agree with Councilor Reuter. Could be opening up a the 2nd and maybe a block to the left, a block to the right of 9th and look at that. But I think if we get down there, then we got to really look at our assessment procedures and how that affects the bottom line. And under the new assessment procedures, that is a huge cost. And we might overprice ourselves out of a attainable project that we need to do from 5th to 9th. So I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I would think SEH ought to be able to take a quick look at, we know we probably want to redo the roadway itself for sure, but they could check with utilities and things and see what the age of the infrastructure is and give us an opinion as to whether we'd have to do that or not. That shouldn't cost too much.
It shouldn't, and you would be presented with those numbers. So you can definitely, once you're presented the whole scope, and when I suggest Ninth, I am just suggesting that block in front of the school, not all of Ninth. You could, so the scoping would include, it would essentially be 3 different projects, 3rd, 9th, and then 2nd. And then you can have information in front of you to make an informed decision.
Would scoping a project help us go after other dollars for these
Yes.
projects as well?
Because we are going to go after safe routes to school as well.
That's what I was looking at, yeah. It might not be a bad idea to do all 3 as separate projects, and then we'd be able to use that info to go after safe routes, my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion we enter into the agreement with SEH.
Including 9th and 3rd, or just the
Yes.
2nd?
Well, I'd like them to look at 9th and 8th and give us an idea what we have.
You heard the motion by Councilor Reuter. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion?
I just have a clarification that it may change their $15,000 in this proposal.
I was just gonna ask that myself. I would say we might have to table it until next meeting, but I would add 3rd and 9th and see what that cost.
Or we could, if we're gonna
Approve
look at them
this.
at all separate projects, let's approve 2nd, and then I'll ask them for 9th and 3rd, and that can come back to you. But I just wanted to know if you had an appetite for 9th and 3rd, as long as we're looking at the entire project, or the entire area.
I think it's a consensus of the council to do 9th and 3rd. Would you like to amend your motion in second to just approve this second street agreement and then have 9th and 3rd come back at a later
Yes,
date?
I will.
Councilor Reuter did, Councilor Johnson did as well, so like to amend that motion to
Yes.
reflect?
It is.
So you heard the motion in the second. Any
I have a
further?
question.
What's that, Councilor Benson?
And when they're talking about the scope of the project, I'm wondering if it's going to include, or even if they will look at, our transportation plans that they did, the Metropolitan Interstate Council concepts.
Yes, it will. We've had a discussion about those concepts.
What was the extent of the discussions, if I might ask?
Looking at the pedestrian routes, being that it is designated safe routes to school, having it pedestrian friendly. SEH is fully aware of that transportation plan. So what a small committee together to talk about the needs. It'll include PUC. It'll include looking at street lighting upgrades, pedestrian upgrades, bike trails, walking trails, whatever that might be, whatever it might look like.
Traffic calming,
Yep, like the bump outs that were studied during the study.
trees.
I knew that one was coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That will bring us to 6F, Hoghead Fireworks. Before the meeting, Chief Gaddis informed me that the Minnesota DNR has restricted fireworks. They put a ban in place regarding fireworks. I guess my recommendation regarding Hoghead Fireworks would be to proceed as normal, following all DNR guidelines. Because we do have to get the check to the firework company soon. It's in our bills today, I believe. So we'll continue as planned. But if there's still a ban on fireworks, then I would say we gotta go with the recommendation from the DNR. What's council's opinion on that?
What happens if the ban does not lift and we cut a check for $5,000? Do we get part of it back, or?
I would think that Sergeant Service, who's the guy that runs that Flashing Thunder fireworks, if we let him know that we're planning on doing it, but because of the ban, we might not be able to, I think there's a good chance he'd let us pick another date later on when it's
Chief Gaddis, I believe,
when
did
it's
have
not.
a conversation with him. You you'd like to fill us in, Chief?
We talked to Kurt, Fire Chief and I talked to Kurt on the phone today, and he didn't know about the restriction that basically came out earlier this afternoon from basically Pine City all the way up to the border with the extreme conditions, because another community canceled their fireworks this week, upcoming weekend today because of that. So preliminary conversations with the fireworks company about that and having a rain date, but we don't know for sure. I just found out about this afternoon and brought it to the mayor's attention.
And a couple weeks ago, the city of Evelyn had an incident with their fireworks show with 4th of July, I believe. They burnt their hillside up, so hate to see something like that happen to our golf course or the woods behind us.
I just think he likes Proctor, he likes coming here, that's why we get such a good show for the money we spend. I think he'd work with us, so I'd go along with you, that we just plan on having it and hope we get some rain.
And if we don't, maybe we just pick another day in the fall or something if he's willing to come up and do it at a different time.
If I may say so, all the vendors I worked with during Hoghead, he's one of the best that we've ever worked with over the past years. Very easygoing guy. Any concerns we have with safety, he always sits there. He's on the forefront of it, and he works very well with the public safety.
So I'll make that motion to continue as planned, but following DNR guidelines.
I'll second that.
Councilor Reuter seconds that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. 6G, South St. Louis County Fair Resolution. Councilor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council.